appreciate all the comparisons to other vehicles. And no matter how many times they compare their vehicles to a Honda, only a Honda is a Honda. Remember, value, quality, safety, there is no substitute. Visit your local Honda dealer now and experience the difference.
Find your why in your next career move at the First Coast YMCA. Everyone can get involved and make a difference in your community at the Y. And if you'd like to turn your passion into a fulfilling career, the Y is an equal opportunity employer and is now hiring youth program leaders, lifeguards, swim instructors, and more. Plus, Y staff enjoy benefits including free YMCA membership and free childcare while you work. Find your passion, find your why in a career at fcymca.org.
Hey, Jacksonville Koozies, it's me, Soccer Sam, for Salvatore's Pizza. Rochester, New York's favorite pizza is now open in Jacksonville, Florida, Tapestry Park at the Loft Hotel Plaza. Daily $10 deals, dine in with beer and wine, and delivery at salvatores.com. The famous Formoso family brings Salvatore's Pizza, Rochester's favorite pizza, including our 32-piece sheet pizza for your next event. Do it with me, baby. Salvatores.com.
Hey Jacksonville, it's Lauren Brooks from Helmets and Heels. This summer, Big Chief is partnering with local nonprofit V for Victory to help local families affected by cancer. You can make a difference and support local families by dropping off school supplies at any Big Chief Tire location. As a thank you, you'll receive 10% off your next service. Visit BigChiefTire.com or call 904-932-0950 for more details. Big Chief Tire keeps Jacks rolling.
We love talking sports on 1010XL, and I-9 Sports loves giving kids the perfect way to grow up playing sports. Fall and winter registration is underway. Log on to i9sports.com and see all they've got to offer. Kids 3 and up. You can enter 1010 in the promo code for a discount. Year-round sports all across the First Coast. St. John's, Duval, and Clay. Sign up now for fall and winter. Great locations added like Fort Family Field, Westside Middle, and Duval Charter Bay Meadows. It's all online at i9sports.com.
Sometimes the most important position in sports needs a translator.
I'm Denny Thompson, and they call me the quarterback whisperer.
He shares his insights Friday mornings on The Drill. Brought to you by Tyson Sound and Security and George Moore Chevrolet.
Bueller Air and Plumbing presents Are You Cool?
Today's challenger, a paint color namer from Jacksonville, Florida. Meet Irving Stapler.
Hi, Howie.
So the next round is word association. I'll say a word and you give me the first word you think of. Engagement ring.
Jeweler.
Gas station.
Fueler.
Aaron Burr.
Dueler.
Air conditioning.
Wow. Jeez. That's a toughie.
Come on, Irv. The sponsor's going to kill me now.
Oh, Bueller.
That's right, Irv. If your AC is struggling through the summer heat, the first name you should think of for fast, friendly, 5-star service is Bueller Air and Plumbing. The name to know to make sure you are cool.
Have a beer, Irv.
Cooler.
Stay cooler with Bueller. Visit BuellerAir.com.
Hello, this is Father Nicholas Lowe, and I want to talk to you about letting things roll off of your back. So often we can make big deals out of things that are not really big deals. We can allow them to steal the joy of our day. But let me remind you that don't allow anyone or anything to steal the joy of today. Go out today not letting little things steal the big things that God has in store for you.
For more inspiration, log on to stjohnthedivine.com.
Electricians, innovators, and tech enthusiasts, listen up. Miller Electric is shaping the future, and we want you to be a part of it. From healthcare and data centers, corporate offices, aviation, and industrial facilities, Miller Electric is powering the most exciting projects in Jacksonville and beyond. We offer not just a job, but a thrilling career with great pay and incredible benefits. Visit us at millercareers.com to apply. Miller Electric, where your skills meet our vision, an equal opportunity employer.
Hello, I'm Malcolm Anthony. I've been practicing criminal defense law for over 40 years. It's what I love to do, it's what I do well. Stay out of trouble, but if you don't, call me, Malcolm Anthony, at 2854-LAW. 2854-LAW for Malcolm Anthony.
Hey, it's Roger Moore, CEO of Loan Pronto. If you're like me, you're getting crushed by rising costs of everything these days. I get it. It's brutal, and credit card rates are ridiculous and going higher. That's why at Loan Pronto, we launched our Express Equity Line of Credit to bring you the relief you and your family need, using your home, your most valuable asset. We've helped thousands of people like you get fast relief with cash. The average homeowner who does this gets tens of thousands in just days and is able to save $850 per month in overall expenses. I'm talking life-changing money. Your money that you have access to right now. Listen, if you're ready to get control of your finances and get off the hamster wheel, call Loan Pronto. You can get approved for Express Equity Line of Credit in just minutes, and we can get your cash in less than a week. Stop digging a deeper credit card hole today. Call Loan Pronto now. 904-999-1508. 904-999-1508. LoanPronto.com. 904-999-1508.
Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. NMLS consumeraccess.org.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now more Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
All right, Tone, a couple of scraps off the cutting room floor, things we didn't fully flesh out, but, one of those deals. Had a lot, actually, I felt like, to get into today.
Yeah.
With the Jags considering, dead period. But training camp storylines, NFL.com did a piece towards the end of last week. You may have seen it. If you haven't, you can go check it out there. Every AFC South team is covered. I don't know if they've done every team to this point, but, it's one of those ongoing series of deals.
Yeah.
And it somewhat coincides with tomorrow's Tuesday Top 5, which we'll tell you what it's going to be here in a second. But the top 5 storylines for the Jaguars were, A, the new pieces, new faces and new places kind of thing, and which covered, Mitch Morse to Gabe Davis to on and on and on, and that includes the draft picks. Trevor Lawrence really live up to the extension. Doug Peterson lightening the load on Travis Etienne, and who are the options for that? And if you look just based on the numbers last year, Tank Bigsby averaged 2.6 yards a carry. I understand why there's question about that, but clearly that's the guy they're looking at, right, to be the number 2. Can the Jags get pushed for anybody in the run game and basically the offensive line overall? I think that's absolutely fair, and that would be one of the big questions for most people. And then Ryan Nielsen's impact on the defense, which is, again, could be one of the most significant changes that the Jags have made this offseason. So tomorrow, the Tuesday Top 5, we're looking at your top 5 reasons for optimism for the Jaguars heading into training camp, whatever those happen to be.
Yeah.
Okay, next week we may do the reverse. Oh, why are you so negative? Because we do both sides of the coin, or we try to. And what are your top 5 reasons for concern heading into training camp? But for tomorrow, we'll be looking on the optimistic side.
Is next Tuesday going to be our final top 5? With training camp opening up?
I don't know when logs will kick back. I would say maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe an extra one or two.
Usually we've had logs in, I think, after the first preseason game.
Something like that.
Is when and that'll be August 10th?
It's coming to an end.
Yeah.
Pretty soon. It's fun little, off-season
it's been fun.
Departure.
Yeah.
Different way of doing things around these parts. So you got that coming up tomorrow. Also, Bucky Brooks. I take it with a grain of salt when Bucky is one at NFL.com to recognize something that the Jags potentially have going well, because Bucky's part of the broadcast crew here. But he did do a piece in his Scouts Notebook on long shot picks for major NFL awards in 2024. MVP, Jared Goff. Okay, get it, right? Lions expected to be maybe the team or among the top 2 preseason.
Yeah.
Heading into things in the NFC.
Yeah, it's not crazy to think that they'd be the best team in the NFC. And
right.
if they are
San
in that
Fran
kind of position,
probably, deserves the...
They're likely going to win 12, 13 games.
Sure.
He's the quarterback for a team that you think may be winning 13 games this year. He's going to be in the MVP discussion.
Absolutely. Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Keon Coleman. Steps into a big target share opportunity with the Buffalo Bills. Peyton Wilson, a Pittsburgh linebacker, defensive rookie of the year. Again, these are long shot candidates.
Yep.
Deshaun Watson for comeback player of the year. Mike McCarthy for coach of the year. Yes, I skipped Defensive Player of the Year, Josh Hines Allen or Joshua Hines Allen. Either way, I'm not paying $1 to the jar.
No, you're not.
So there you go. And, you would expect Bucky Brooks among anyone out there to recognize. Certainly you won't see that over at CBS unless maybe Prisco writes it. But not one of those other guys getting it in. All right, so today, your Chad and Sandy real estate question of the day saying, Jacksonville Jaguar fans, which player, position, or position group on the Jags has not gotten the attention, good or bad, positive or negative, that it deserves this offseason? Let's start off the discussion with a 10-10 take.
10-10 take. Now, Mike Dempsey's 10-10 take. Brought to you by Leonard Truck Accessories.
I have no issue with anybody saying offensive line. Still needs to be a drumbeat that is repeated. But I feel like I don't know what else there is to say about it at this point in time, right? There's depth at the tackle position. Is there high-end talent? Maybe not. Is Ezra Cleveland going to live up to that contract if he's healthy this year? Does Brandon Sheriff have one more year of high-quality football in him? And is Mitch Morse enough of a change on the offensive line? Get all that, right? And don't have any qualms. Really, with anybody, this is a personal thing, what you think deserves more. For me, Tone, I alluded to it earlier, it's that other linebacker spot. And maybe it is more of a linebacker safety hybrid thing. But when we talk about nickel, you're going to be a nickel a bunch. You're going to be a nickel 60% of the time, 2/3 of the time. There's still a bunch of snaps out there for maybe Chad Muma, maybe Ventrell Miller, maybe Yasir Abdullah. Maybe they play it a different way completely. Maybe there's so many different hybrid looks that it doesn't really matter. We're getting too caught up in the position. Will Trevis Gibson be playing a bunch of those snaps when we're on third down? Well, if he is, you also assume we're a nickel, like who's going to be on the field in those spots. I don't know who it was. I should have bookmarked it, but some piece I saw was talking about off-ball linebackers and said Chad Muma may be the best non-starting off-ball linebacker in the National Football League. Like, how would you know? Right. Has he played enough? And has he played well enough? Like, I get if you're basing it on what your thoughts were of him coming out of college and where he is now. If I ask you if they're playing a base 4-3, Chad Muma, Ventrell Miller, who's going to be on the field? Who would you say?
I'd probably lean Muma in my mind at this point, but it's a really weak lean.
It's a coin toss.
Yeah.
How do you even know if he's
It's because I've seen him play.
Sure.
Right? And watching both those guys in the preseason, I may be a weekend in the preseason say Miller needs to be the third linebacker.
Ventrell was hell on wheels in college.
Yeah.
Right? And, it was a lost season. He is like a complete wild card for this team. Will you get anything out of him? Well, you can't count on it. But if you do,
sure.
And you look at the high end of what he was in college, and we all want to look at the positives and all that, but I do, and look, will it be that? Will we see, as you mentioned earlier, Darnell Savage filling that role or somebody else? When you start to look at the safety depth, Antonio Johnson and Andre Sisco and Savage and Wingard and Edmonds and Daniel Thomas, it's a pretty deep position group. Yep. And how are they going to fill those roles? I would imagine in a variety of capacities. It's not going to be necessarily this is it. You're going to see Ventrell Miller play 35% of the snaps this week, every single week. I would hope that Ryan Nielsen is able to take his personnel and fit it to that week's scheme and what is required based on the offense that you're facing and trying to impose your defense's will. But I do feel like we've just kind of glossed over it a little bit. We're going to play nickel a bunch. Look at all these defensive linemen we have. And, what happened? Who is the guy if you're in a 3-linebacker set? Who's the guy? Theoretically, we're talking about a guy who's opening the season as a starter on day one against Miami, and we're not quite sure who that's going to be yet. At least I'm not.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll say this about the offensive line discussion. You're right. We've talked about it a bunch. We mentioned Trevor Lawrence being 16 on ESPN's QB position rankings early in the show. Over the weekend, they had interior offensive line and offensive tackle rankings. One Jaguar showed up on any of those lists, and that was Brandon Sheriff. And I think it speaks to whatever level of nervousness you have about the Jaguars' offensive line going into the season. There are a bunch of position groups that they've gone through to this point that the offensive tackle is the first group. They didn't have anybody on the list. right? They had Cisco on the safety list. He might have been in the honorable mention
he was
part.
right at the bottom of the honorable mentions.
Right. They had Eric Armstead as a defensive line interior player at the top of the honorable mentions. I think 16 on the list across the league. But the only position group they've done to this point where the Jaguars didn't have anybody mentioned is offensive tackle. And I can understand people being nervous about that, right? I think they need to get back to at least the level they played at in 2022. And I do think Trevor being healthy helps that, because Trevor being healthy in 2022 helped that group. I didn't think it was a world-beating group in 2022. I think they were better that season in part because Trevor wasn't dealing with 3 and 4 injuries that he was recovering from at the same time, limiting some of the things that he could do to help him. So I do think those things all kind of feed off one another. It's fair for offensive line. If that's the number one question you have for the whole team going into the season, I think it's fair for that to be the first issue you have on your list for the football team going in. I'll add to the defensive talk too. What does it look like in general? And I do think talking about the third linebacker speaks to it. Right? It's all so wide open with what Nielsen wants to do with a new defense in Jacksonville. Who's the third corner when they have 3 corners on the field? Who are definitely the 2 corners when they have 2 corners on the field? What safeties are playing where? Right? And how much that influences how often they play 3 linebackers or 3 safeties and all these different looks. We have no idea what the answers to any of those questions are. Now, they have some idea of what they want to do with all that already, but the opponents are also sitting there going, I don't know what they want to do, right? With any of these groups, these positions, these situational football things that will be going on. The opponents are just as lost as we are, with exactly what that's going to look like, for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2024. But we start to get an idea of what that may be next week when training camp opens up, especially once we get to next weekend, where the pads are going to start coming on and they start popping a little bit, right? And the intensity will pick up. The first couple days of training camp will be more like the offseason work.
Stretch.
Right, like that kind of thing. And once they get the pads on, and especially once Tampa's in town for a couple of days before that preseason game, we'll start getting answers to what some of these questions we've had throughout this offseason may be. But I think it's fair to have offensive line at the top of your list of concerns for the football team at this point. And the next question for me really would be, what does a Ryan Nielsen defense look like with what he has here in Jacksonville in 2024?
Some of the responses we got: the running back room, third pass rusher, a lot of offensive line, tight end. What are you going to get out of Brenton Strange, and how much 2 tight end formation, linebacker? Will they use a lead blocker in short yardage more? D-backs way too weak. Let's see. So a little bit of variety right there. One note quickly, in ESPN's rankings where they do the honorable mention, they talk about all the scouts comments and what have you. Somebody in the Andre Cisco portion mentioned he's going to be a 30 interception guy in his career. Like would he be only the 3rd Jaguar drafted to get to that? Rasheem Mathis ended up with 32. Reggie Nelson ended up with 38 interceptions in his career. Wish they could have come here in a Jacksonville uniform, right? I mean, in Cincinnati, he led the league one year in interceptions. Let's hope that Andre Cisco does that patrolling for a long time in teal. At least that's what I'm certainly hoping for. All right. And then finally, RJ, why don't we tie a bow on this thing?
Now the cool down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since '87.
I do need to cool down. I feel like I'm sweating through my shirt. I just came in with a little bit of high intensity, high wire act today, and that's okay. That's what happens when you have 11 days off. One thing we didn't really get into today, but it's worth checking out over at Pro Football Network, is their top 100 ranking, which came out today. And Joshua Hines-Allen is like 54, I think, on the list, and Trevor was like 92. Wouldn't expect much different there. But they are also the purveyors of the Let's Review the Mac Jones trade article, which is, again, the height of offseason silliness. The bottom line, again, we're just pushing through, man, until we get these guys back on the field, because none of what any of these national pundits say, really none of what we say, none of what anyone says, talk, including the players, None of it matters. Performance is what's ultimately going to matter, and you need to expect a high level of performance. This team has poured a ton of money. They spent more money than any team in terms of contract extensions and free agent additions of any team in the NFL this offseason. It's time to back it up. It's not time to go 8-9, 9-8. It's time to reestablish yourself as a bully in the AFC South, and we'll see if they're capable of doing it. But it's all going to start with Trevor Lawrence, and I do know he wears number 16, Tony. So that's one of the rare numbers I'm down with in terms of my recollection in the National Football League. All right, we're about done today. It was, 54-92. I did remember those rankings accurately over at Pro Football Network. So go check that out. Tomorrow's Tuesday Top 5, your top 5 reasons for optimism for this Jaguar squad heading into training camp. Everyone's healthy right now for the most part, and everything's good, so it should be a lot of positives tomorrow. We'll probably look at the other side of the coin next week. That's going to do it for us today. Tony, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I'll see you for one more day before you hit vacation. RJ, thanks for jumping in for Dylan today.
Absolutely, man. Enjoyed it.
All right, Denmark back tomorrow. Thanks for listening to Jaguars Today. Mike Dempsey, Tony Smith, and RJ Saunders. Stick around because Helmets and Heels is coming up next on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Hey everybody, Mike Dempsey here for Pella Windows and Doors.